इसमें वो एक्टर था ना यार, क्या टिप टॉप था यार.
Yeah, मैंने देखा है. And he's also in this other play called The Glass Menagerie.
Correct.
अरे वो मेड इन हेवन वाला क्या?
वो सिर्फ एक्टर नहीं है, वो राइटर और डायरेक्टर भी है.
Correct. मैंने वो play देखा. Bullman. Yes, we watched that one यार.
अरे संजू पद्मावत डेथ इन द
हाँ, वो तो है. But he's also in this play by Alec Padamsee, The Death of the Theatre. Theatre and show with chips up. देखो वो आ रहे.
मतलब वो पद्मावत में तो आप ही हो.
True and False by David Mamet. Some thoughts. As actors, we spend most of our time nauseated, confused, guilty. We are lost and ashamed of it. Confused because we don't know what to do, and we have too much information, none of which can be acted upon. And guilty because we feel we are not doing our job. We feel we have not learned our job well enough. We feel others know their job, but we have failed. The good we do seems to be through chance. If only that agent would notice me. If only that producer had come on Tuesday night when I was good rather than on Wednesday night when I was off. If only the script allowed me to do more this and less that. If only the audience had been better. If only we had not gone up 5 minutes late, as a consequence of which I lost my concentration. So we become envious of those who have luck, of those who seemingly have technique. As having no technique ourselves, we think that their accomplishments must be based on luck. So we invest more heavily in a technique based on luck, and it becomes in effect a superstition, an investment in self-consciousness, in introversion. We turn our attention inward because introversion spares us from the horrible necessity of living in a theatre world for which we are totally unprepared. So our technique becomes more and more devoted to the development of a kind of catatonia, sense memory, substitution, emotional memory, the fourth wall, the creation of auxiliary stories which are just as difficult to perform as the script, but lack the merit of being about anything other than ourselves. The Stanislavski method and the technique of the schools derived from it is nonsense. It is not a technique out of the practice of which one develops a skill. It is a cult. The organic demands made on the actor are much more compelling, and the potential accomplishments of the actor much more important. The life and work, if I may say so, much more heroic than anything prescribed or foreseen by this or any other method of acting. Acting is not a genteel profession. Actors used to be buried at a crossroads with a stake through the heart. Those people's performances so troubled the onlookers that they feared their ghosts. An awesome compliment. Those players moved the audience not such that they were admitted to a graduate school or received a complimentary review, but such that the audience feared for their soul. Now that seems to me something to aim for. So that's what David Mamet has to say about it all. Now you have to take David Mamet with a little bit of a pinch of salt. He's a meat and potatoes kind of guy. He doesn't believe in the whole spiritual mumbo jumbo that often surrounds acting and theatre especially. I think we all like to believe that giving something more power than it actually has, in a weird way, diminishes the possible power that you can get from it. I don't know how else to explain that, except that it is basically what he says. The wonder of the theatre is you're saying words that aren't your own, like you mean them, more than you mean other things. There's a fate. The script will go as it goes. All you have to do is carry it along. The only power you have is your interpretation. And even that power often is not really completely in your hands. Much more fun to approach the scene not knowing what the actor is going to provoke in you. Not and then living in that uncertainty and saying your lines anyway. What he is totally against is this perfectly crafted sense memory, or at this moment I'll feel this thing, at this moment I'm going to show this thing to the audience. When in fact, what he promotes more than anything else is approaching life with a certain amount of calmness with the uncertainty. The fact that I've never been a hijacker taking over a plane. All I can do is learn my lines and burst onto that plane and see how I feel. I don't know what it's going to be like. The person themselves have never been in that situation before. The person themselves are battling with huge amounts of uncertainty. I don't know what I'm going to feel like when my father dies. So playing the moment when my father dies, having perfectly planned it, would not be totally right. Because being fresh in the moment would involve living with that uncertainty. And if you can take that thing, that the simple thing that theater teaches you, and just apply it to your life, and say that there's a certain amount of uncertainty at all times, with everything, and becoming comfortable with that, and standing up straight, and trying to say your lines despite the uncertainty. That's wonderful. That's a lesson to take home and try to use in your life for all times. So a lot of why I love the theater is because it gives you a pretty good roadmap of how to approach your actual life. Yes, theater is important. Yes, being good in front of the audience is important. All of those things are important, but the richer the life, the richer the actor. The more experiences you have as a person, the more experiences you will be calm in dealing with on the stage. At some point when I was in Atlanta, I was reading a lot. It's pretty classic post-college thinking. I was really interested in spirituality. I want to know about Carl Jung, and I want to read about other philosophers on what it means to be a human being, or what it means to get in touch with yourself. And I couldn't stand theater all of a sudden. I was like, what is this? What is this? I'm writing the audience's experience. I'm connected with my co-actor. There's a fate. I'm saying lines that I don't believe. I'm floating up somewhere above, watching this whole thing happen. This is the God experience that they keep describing in the book. This is that experience of knowing yourself. But I don't want to go through something in order to learn it. I left, I came here, I went to an ashram for 5 months, I wandered around the Himalayas. It's pretty typical post-college stuff. And through all of that wandering, I more or less started to realize that you always go through something in order to find out about yourself. There's always an external form that you need to move through in order to find more about yourself. So then why not acting? Why not the theater? Why not films? And so, I moved back to Bombay and kept acting. Acted in some places. Got cast in some films. And even the first 2 films that I did, Nirja and Teen Aur Aadha. Teen Aur Aadha was a 45-minute single take. And in Nirja, the whole first take that I ever did on a Bollywood film was the action all the way up until the interval. If I hadn't done theater, I would have been lost. I wouldn't have known what to do. I would have freaked out like everybody else on set was freaking out. It was freaking out. It's very interesting the way that the part is written, what is morphing, because things are constantly in movement, things are constantly morphing as you're developing them. And the way it was written, I didn't have as big of a part as I finally did in Nirja. It was only because I was so used to knowing that the script has to continue. And if someone else is dropping the ball, you gotta say those lines, or you gotta find a way to remind them, or you gotta keep moving the story forward. And only a theatrical tradition can teach you that. So through that situation, it so became that the leader who's freaking out with these 45-minute takes was looking more and more flustered and more like he didn't know what was going on, because he didn't know what was going on. He had completely forgotten. He was nervous. It was 30 minutes into a take. I mean, how do you sustain the energy? And it's something that I knew how to do. So you saw the subordinate like taking over from the leader, because that's what was actually happening, actor to actor, not just character-wise. Very interesting things. I do love the theatre. I hope to keep acting on stage for as much as possible. There's like different pleasures that come at different times. People, film journalists particularly like to ask the same questions over and over again. I mean, it's mind-numbingly boring to answer interviews. Oh my God. Recently I said some things of like, how did you start in theatre? I was like, well, it all started as a wee baby boy. Never thinking that I would be loved for who I am, so I moved into theatre to get adulation on the stage. You know, I'm joking. But they've written the article. The article is thinking he would never be loved, in quotation. I moved to theatre for the praise. But they keep asking, what's the difference? What's the difference? What's the difference? And I think the pleasures of acting just come at different times. I think there's a great pleasure in rehearsing. There's a very, very strong chance that the way you do it in rehearsal, you'll never be able to touch it again. Even in shows, there's a strong chance that that'll happen. The best moment could have been 3 weeks ago, and you wish it was now in front of the audience, but you know, it just may not happen like that. But so that's a pleasure. And then of course, once it gets a bit old and lame in the rehearsal room, because usually by 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I start to get bored because I'm itching for an audience. And you know, the directors here will tell you that it's not about, it's not about this at all, but you're not here to please a director. You're not here to please an acting school. You're not here to please a teacher of acting. This is one person. Each one of those people are one person. You're not here to please any of them. Fuck all of them. You're here to please the audience. You're here to get your point across to the audience. Of course, you have to go through directors, some of whom you will trust, some of whom you will not trust. You'll have to go through casting directors, some of whom you will trust, some of whom you will not trust. You will have to go through acting schools. But take everything with a little bit of salt and keep exploring yourself. Keep being in front of people. Keep seeing what the effect that your actions and your words have upon an actual audience. Nothing is better than being in front of an audience to learn. Nothing. Zero. Everything else